Hello, in this video I'm going to cover the path or road to recovery from binge eating and some easy tips that may be of benefit to you. Now, if binge eating, food, weight reduction are topics that are triggering to you, please do not watch this video, skip by. There's a lot of other content out there that may be more appropriate for you. My intention with sharing my personal struggles and the road to recovery is to make you feel less alone if you're also experiencing some struggles, and for me in this in particular video to share some resources that have been extremely beneficial on my road to recovery. So if this is content that is of interest, please stick around. For those of you new to the channel, I'm Tanya, I'm 52 years old, and I have been on a vast self-development journey for most of my life, but in particular over the past 18 months, and the food element has been a big kind of motivator in me going into therapy and into coaching and several other programs of work that I've actually undertaken and completed as a participant in order for me to heal and find tools and techniques that work in my personal life. Some of these tools and techniques may work for you, so that's why I'll sort of like include resources within this video. Now, last week's video covered the kind of battle struggle that I've had with food since the age of 5 up until my early 50s. And in this video, it's all about the progress, the healing, the kind of courses, the materials, the therapy that I've actually had. So it's going to be more personal to me, but as I said, I will sort of interject some resources that may be beneficial to you. So my journey with Rapid Transformational Therapy began in April 2023, and that is really hypnosis on steroids. That's the kind of most apt way to sort of position it. Marissa Peer is the founder of this course, and what I did was, as part of my studying, I got involved with a number of fellow students and with graduates, and I also did some hypnotherapy myself, where the focus was on me healing my relationship with food. Because in particular in my kind of 40s, my weight has increased significantly to the point where I know I am not the healthiest that I could be, and longevity is something that I'm aspiring for. It's one of my goals. So therefore I know that I need to start taking better care of my body from a physical perspective. However, in order for me to tackle the physical, I really need to tackle the mental aspects, which were very, very closely interlinked to the emotional aspects. So in July 2023, I was a client to a recent graduate from the program, and I did my first RTT session where I was under hypnosis as the client, and we went back to scenes from my childhood to try and understand why I had that unhealthy relationship with food, and through that understanding to start put in place the coping strategies and mechanisms that I needed in order to get me to a recovery state. And in that first session, it all came back to rejection, that feeling of being rejected by my caregivers. And it was the beliefs that I created in my head. I know as an adult, as a rational thinking person, that yes, there is justifications and reasons why things happened the way they happened. But as Peter Crone says, what happened, happened, and it couldn't have happened any other way because it didn't. And that was the reality, facing that reality. But as a 5-year-old, I created this unhealthy belief, and that sort of underpinned my behaviour and patterns throughout my life. And even though I went on diets and exercise regimes and I reduced my weight at different points, I always then reverted back. And there's a lot of information either on YouTube, books, podcasts, information, courses that cover a lot about the kind of pros and cons of diets, that some of them work, but they don't work for everyone and they don't have a long-term beneficial impact. And this is where it's all about lifestyle and it's about choices. And having that first session in July 2023, started making changes because the weight was starting to reduce. I was eating healthier. I was putting into place some other material that I had read and started incorporating in my life earlier on that year. And one of the doctors that I was actually following was Dr. Mindy Pelz, and she has written a couple of books, and this is the one that relates to me more now in this sense, at this stage of my life, because I'm in the menopause. But prior to that, I had read the Fast Like a Girl book, which was about eating to balance your hormones as a female, and starting to introduce and incorporate intermittent fasting. I naturally was starting to do that because I was not wanting to eat breakfast first thing in the morning when I woke up, and it was later on in the day. So I was naturally starting to incorporate intermittent fasting in my life. But then when I read the book Fast Like a Girl, and then later this Menopause Reset book, things started making a bit more sense. However, this is where patterns of behavior are much harder for you to break when you don't understand the components part, and it's all linked to the kind of mindset and the emotions. So that first layer, me understanding that food was a reward mechanism for me, I responded to food as being loved and cared for. So if I wanted to feel loved and connected to people, I did that through food. And that was fine when you were socializing with people, because then you can eat, and that is a healthy activity to actually have. What it was detrimental to me was that I started binge eating in my 20s, which is something that I was doing in secret, in private, and there was a lot of shame and guilt associated with it. And until probably the past maybe six to 8 months, I've not even actually been talking openly about it, even though I have done the actual RTT work. I've talked with a therapist, but I've not then talked about it more widely with my family and friends and with my peers. But in the past 8 to 6 months, I have been more open because I'm starting to understand a lot more of what was going on in my head and what I was feeling in my body and what was actually triggering me. And I've got more kind of vocabulary and knowledge in this space. So Dr. Mindy Pelz sort of introduced me to intermittent fasting, and then I actually did another course with Marissa Peer, which was the Dietless Life program, and that was an 8-week program that I started in January this year, 2024, and it completed in March 2024. And in that 8-week program, we started to get group hypnosis session on a weekly basis, and also material to start prompting us from a coaching perspective, to start prompting the questions as to why I'm eating. And even though I knew I was an emotional eater, what I hadn't appreciated, because there is a quiz that you can actually undertake as part of that program, is that I was also a destructive eater. And this is what I had found, that through the diets, I was actually good at following a routine, and while I wasn't having external pressures and stress overload, I was able to plan, prepare, meal prep, eat clean, exercise, and incorporate that into my lifestyle, and my weight would reduce. But then I would self-sabotage, and the self-sabotage could take many forms, and the predominant form for me was that something would trigger me, whether it was an interaction with a family member, or it would be an interaction at work, or even just a belief that was still lying dormant in a sense. I was blind to the belief even existing. My self-worth was one of those beliefs, that I didn't think that I was worthy and deserving of love and affection and taking care of myself. And even though I was saying that I was respecting and wanting to be fit and healthy to take care of this body avatar vessel that I'm in, my actions weren't corresponding, so there was a lot of conflict because the underlying beliefs I was actually blind to them. So through that Dietless Life program, I started unearthing a lot more information, understanding that I had a rebel part of me that was not being heard, not being understood. There was a lot of black and white thinking and also all or nothing thinking that was like part of my kind of daily life, and I was oblivious to. I was so blind to it, I didn't even realize it. The language that I was using, it was all about weight loss, and it was about being bad if I was eating something processed or something sweet that previously sort of was a reward mechanism for me. And as a result, that kind of self-judgment, I wasn't coming from a place of kindness and compassion, that I was doing the best that I could with information that I had and not fully understanding what my true triggers were, and the habits and behaviours that I was demonstrating, I could actually change and improve. Now, I'm an advocate and a total believer that we are all capable of making better choices when we've got the right information, we've been given the right guidance, and even though I'm using the word right, is that there is ample information out there, but it might be information that is not actually serving you to your optimal goal and what aspiration that you may have. And it's about aligning all of that in order to give you the kind of right route to plan what will work for you in your lifestyle. And there is a lot of experimentation, trial and error, but it's coming from a place of kindness and compassion rather than judgment and self-criticism and making me feel bad about myself, because that doesn't serve anyone. It just makes me feel stuck. It makes me feel pain and suffering and more shame, more guilt. And this is about putting all the knowledge that you acquire in sort of 1 millimeter at a time, progress improvement, tracking the progress, tracking your mindset. So self-reflection is something that I do on a daily basis, because that keeps me feeling motivated. It keeps me course correcting where I need to course correct. And this is where the language patterns start sort of coming out, where I think, oh, I've shifted my language pattern, and then it comes back, no, you haven't shifted it enough. And this is where sometimes the kind of language that we use, loss, is our mental primal instinct is for us to lose nothing. We don't want to lose. We want to gain, or we want to just be neutral. We certainly do not want to be losing. You don't want to lose money. You don't want to lose weight. What you want is to reduce your weight. You want to be fit, slender, healthier. You want all the benefits with having a healthy, optimum body functioning and giving you the energy and vitality for you to live and navigate this life experience. So those kind of word kind of shifts and changes were becoming more apparent as I understood that there was a lot of black and white thinking, a lot of all or nothing thinking, and about shifting that kind of the words and the language that I was using and coming from a kind and compassion perspective. Now, what I also found is on YouTube, there is a therapist called Sarah. She is an ex-binge eater that's turned psychotherapist, and I'll link her channel below. It's the binge eating therapist, and there's a lot of information that she's actually shared that totally resonates with my patterns of behaviour. And through watching her content, I have started to self-coach myself to become kinder and use more intuitive eating practices. But for the days that I may not be sort of like following that 100%, being kind and compassionate to myself rather than judging and criticizing, to then enable me to take the right action moving forward. And then earlier this week, I also read the book by James Clear, Atomic Habits. And I did a video for that on Wednesday this week, and that is giving me a little bit more information as to, oh yes, this is how habits are being formed and this is how you can break habits. So I'm starting to incorporate a lot of those kind of tools and techniques to apply them to my recovery journey, because you don't go from binge eating and then you're fully recovered, you never think about food, because that is one of the things. Food, an alcoholic or a drug addict has the choice of consuming that information or not consuming that information. You can go cold turkey, you can go on a treatment program and you can stop, you can get support to help support you. But food is something that we need to consume food for us to survive. So it's not that we can sort of say, I'm never going to have food ever again in my life, so you can cut it out and you can ignore it and avoid it. So it's about having a healthier relationship with food that is important, in understanding what your triggers, what your patterns of behaviour is, what is the mindset, what is the language you're using, and coming from that place of kindness and compassion. Then, in addition to watching the YouTube content by Sarah, I also watched, I'm a Mind Valley member, which is an educational platform, and there's a number of quests and programs within there. And I resonated with the vibe of one of the content creators called Ronan Diego de Oliveira, and he's got a quest, which is a 28-day program, and it's called Beyond Fasting. So even though I have watched and followed the content of Dr. Mindy Pelz on YouTube and have read her books, it was good to sort of get another perspective on fasting and applying the kind of kinder and more compassionate thinking and intuitive aspects from the binge eating therapist. Incorporating all that information has enabled me to come up with an action plan that is more easy, obvious, sustainable and fun for me to apply, where I am not focused on food all the time, and I am actually eating the food that is going to nourish and sustain my body, and therefore eating the right combination of foods is actually making me feel satisfied, at which point then I'm not actually craving, I'm not binging more food. So there's a number of things within those content creators that has enabled me to sort of put a plan of action. But the kind of final bit of the puzzle for me came at the end of September 2024, where I had a second RTT session with another fellow graduate from the Rapid Transformational Therapy course. He was a participant at the Rushton Live event that I went to as well in September 2023, but we hadn't worked together. We had interacted in a few kind of group reunion Zoom calls, but we hadn't sort of worked one-to-one. And I know I'm going to do a testimonial for him in a week's time, when the 3-week audio hypnosis, I'll have completed that, because it was absolutely a phenomenal session. And in that session, I sort of finally put the final bit of the puzzle for me. So I understood that I felt rejected, and I knew that I had this rebel part. And even though the group hypnosis bits that we did with Marissa Peer as part of the Dietless Life program were beneficial, what was missing for me was having that interaction with a therapist under hypnosis, where intuitively they could actually guide me to realizing the final bit of the puzzle. And the final bit of the puzzle for me was that I don't have to be a good girl all the time, that Tanya can actually do a rebellious thing from time to time, as long as she is fully in control of the choice that she's actually making, and that she is not driven by emotion. So this is where now the emotions in my life and the feelings that I'm experiencing are like waves, and I'm riding those waves gracefully like a surfer, and in doing so I am not being controlled by the emotions. I am not being controlled by the triggers and by the cravings, the desires for things that are not making me feel satisfied, nourished, energized within my body. And then I don't need to be a good girl all the time, because I can have some play food if I so desire to have, but I control the narrative, and by control, I'm actually listening to my body. So I listen to my body wisdom, check in with myself. What do I need today? Do I need 2 meals today? Or do I need 3 meals today? Do I need more hydration? Do I need to have a longer fasting window? Do I need to have something that is going to make me feel comforted? So my kind of food choices can be a little bit more on the carb side or a little bit more on the fat side to give me that kind of comfort feeling, as opposed to it being purely the kind of leaner versions of fruit and vegetables and the protein and the reduced kind of amount of fat and carbs that I might be sort of craving and wanting other days. And it's about getting that satisfaction and satiation within my body, and then I'm not feeling triggered to want to eat things that are no longer bringing me joy and satisfaction. And applying the kind of atomic habits, cues, triggers, and the information that I've got in my action plan is actually steering me in the direction that I want to go. So understanding the kind of waves of emotion, but then there is another kind of tool that you use within RTT, which is identifying that part of me that was feeling empty, that was feeling that was not being heard, that wasn't being satisfied, to then be able to give it a different role or let it go, let that part go. And in me letting that part go, what was absolutely amazing is I actually felt during the session that my stomach, there was a hole in my stomach, and it was because I wasn't feeling heard, I wasn't feeling acknowledged and validated. And in order for me to feel that and feel that love and connection, food was trying to numb and make me avoid feeling those feelings. And as a result, it was like my stomach there was a hole in it. So it didn't matter how much food I put in, I was actually never feeling fully satisfied and complete. And as a result, that's why I binge eat, and that's why I would overeat at certain situations where I felt triggered, because I was trying to get to that feeling of feeling complete and whole. And as part of that exercise, I was able to actually heal my stomach. So my stomach now is full and complete. There is no hole in it. And as a result of having that hypnotherapy session, and I've been 2 weeks in listening to the recording, I have had a sense of fullness ever since. Now I am able to listen to my body wisdom cues in terms of when there is physical hunger, because there is no emotional hunger anymore. And then as a result, I can actually take the beneficial steps and plans of action. So then the food that I'm eating and when I'm eating is to actually nourish and revitalize my body, rather than because I'm trying to fill an emotional gap in my stomach and then I'm just cramming in food. And as a result, that shame and guilt that I used to feel for many years is now starting to go, because I am no longer guilty. That is a behaviour and a pattern that I was doing before because I was unaware of the root fundamental causes. But because of the work that I've been doing since July 2023, I feel now in October 2024 that I am putting the right patterns and behaviours in place. I have got the right mindset, I am tracking my progress, and I am actually feeling pat on the back. Well done, Tanya, because it has been challenging, don't get me wrong. It has been a stop-start. My weight has fluctuated. My website, that I've got a link of it below, shows in the About Me page the journey that I've actually taken since July 2023 up until July 2024, where it was showing my kind of weight reduction, but then weight increase again, because there was this conflict. I hadn't got to the root cause. Now, what I'm doing for myself going forward is applying the new habits that I want to include in my life, exercising a bit more, using intermittent fasting in a healthier way than what I was actually applying intermittent fasting previously, and checking in with my body on a daily basis, because some days it might want more of a type of food versus another. There's certain days where it wants Tanya to indulge and have a latte or have a hot chocolate or have a chocolate bar, if that's the case. And that does not make me a bad person. It's nothing for me to feel shame or guilt about. It's just accepting that I'm riding the waves of what my body needs, what does my mind need, what do my emotional aspects of my life require at that point in time, and just going with the flow. And as a result, I am not weighing myself on a weekly basis like I did with the Dietless Life program, because I was wanting to measure and track the progress. What I'm doing now is kinder and more compassionate to me, and it aligns with the kind of intuitive flow of eating. And this is where I am going to weigh myself once a month, and as long as I'm also tracking my sleep patterns, because my sleep has definitely improved, and that is something that has been improving since some other hypnosis that I did earlier this year. But I'm definitely noticing that now the kind of guilt, shame, the overeating, the binge eating are reducing at such a fast kind of pace that I'm actually feeling the benefits within my body. And I'm also going to be tracking my kind of my skin condition, because I've had a lot of like little rashes and skin kind of blemishes on my kind of arms and in my back, and that is where my body was trying to sort of like detox and get rid of some of the stuff that was harmful to it, because skin is the kind of largest organ in our body, and that is where we sort of excrete a lot of unhelpful ingredients. And I have moved to a more kind of healthier, when I'm saying healthier, cleaner ingredients that I'm incorporating. So there's very little processed, if any, kind of food within my diet, but it's about getting the kind of right combination of ingredients and food combinations for my body to function as more optimal. I'm using infrared sauna blanket to help with the kind of healing from inside out, and by tracking and monitoring my sleep, my kind of eating, but not being obsessive the way that I may have been in the past, where there was the kind of black and white, being more kind of kind and intuitive towards myself, then I'm going to be noticing the progress. And that is something that I've not given myself a time frame by which I want to achieve my ideal weight. And for me, it's more important that I'm not obsessing about food, that I've got a healthier relationship with food. I'm checking in on a daily basis. I am doing what feels right for my body, and mentally, my kind of mindset is shifting, as well as emotionally, that I've got the right coping strategies in place in order for me to take the actions that are going to propel me in the direction of achieving my goals. Okay, there's a lot of information in here. If you've stuck around, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Hopefully within my life journey and my life experience and what I've done in the past year, just over a year, using Rapid Transformational Therapy, reading the books, watching the content, there is information in here that you can either apply to your life, or you can actually see that maybe you've done something similar. If there's anything you want to share, please feel free to do so in the comments below. If not, that's totally fine. If you like this, I'm not going to be doing content on food in my relationship going forward. It's just going to be experiences and stories from my life, and also my kind of self-reflection tools and techniques from my coaching and therapy practice. So if this kind of content is something that resonates, my vibe resonates with you, please feel free to like and subscribe to this channel, and go out and seize the day. Have the most amazing day, whatever you're doing. And always remember, there's choices in life, so choose wisely. Until the next one, bye.